Hi, everybody. Dave Donaldson here with Entrepreneurial Impact. Running solo without my fellow associate, Joe Martin, today, but we are bringing back JJ Gagliardi, a frequent visitor, you're kind of like Saturday Night Live, right? Right. How many people are you're working your way up to the 5 Club. I think you've been with us 3 times now. So you might be the first time 5%. You get that SNL jacket of joining Entrepreneurial Impact. So welcome to the show and welcome back. JJ, how are you?
Doing well. Thanks for having me. Always love talking with you guys. I feel like we always have great conversations, and I walk away learning something. So thanks for having me. I'm always happy to be here.
For those of you, I know there's only a couple left, but for those that have not tuned in yet to Entrepreneurial Impact, we have over 100 recorded episodes to this point. And if you would like to hear what JJ or other people have said, go back and take a listen. But JJ, for those that haven't listened yet, why don't you give them a little bit background about you and what you do, and then we'll kind of segue into what today's topic is going to be about.
Absolutely. So I'm the founder of Changeover Media. We are a video marketing company that really specializes in marketing, mostly in the real estate industry. We do other industries as well, but about 75% of our business is within real estate. And, we really help everyone from your solo agents, your teams, your brokerages, regions of some of the big brokerages, title companies, mortgage lenders, et cetera, with their marketing. It's especially in the small business space, there's not a lot of people who are able to apply the big business marketing ideas to smaller businesses in a way that they can actually keep up with and understand. And so we really specialize in helping our clients stand out, get more leads, get more business, and at the end of the day, grow your business, because that's what it's all about. But hopefully having a positive impact as
right. So when we look at the conversations that agents have and how they get, I think that there's a lot of paralyzing fear around what do I say? How do I say it? What do I look like online? What do I sound like online? What's my digital twin? What's my representation look like? I think there's a lot of scarcity and mindset for agents, right? About not even knowing where to start, right? So how would you respond to that?
Yeah, so I get that conversation all the time. And I mean, I think there's the delicate way and then the blunt way.
We're all about bluntness here, right?
So the blunt way is hate to break it to you, but the way you look, the way you sound on camera is the way you look and sound in person. And at the end of the day, right? Like, why are we doing marketing? We're doing marketing to get more leads, get more clients. And so you don't have to be the agent for everybody. In fact, if you try to be the agent for everybody, you're the agent for nobody, right? So you need to be yourself, and people are going to resonate with that. And that means being vulnerable. That means making mistakes and stumbling and saying and maybe not being thrilled with the way you look or the way that you come across sometimes. And that's okay, because people do business with people, and the way you come across is that's just who you are. And in fact, I'd argue that trying to become someone you're not when you're on camera, have this like marketing persona, is doing a disservice to your clients, because when they sit down and meet with you, you're like, wait, you're nothing like the person I met online. Because people really do build relationships in their heads with the people they're consuming the content from. And so I also think, and I really like to add this in, that in my eyes, it is selfish not to be putting out content, because you don't know who needs to hear what you have to say, right? Like, especially in real estate, you're a real estate agent, you're helping people with one of the biggest transactions they're ever going to make. And who knows, you might be the person that says something in a way that person on the other side needed to hear it to unlock that idea of, oh, wait, I can build generational wealth through real estate. Oh, wait, I can afford a home. I can afford a second home or a rental property. Like, you might be the one that says it in the way that they needed to hear it, because sometimes people need to hear it from someone that looks like them or sounds like them. And so in my eyes, it's honestly kind of selfish to not be creating content and sharing it out there, because you're like, oh, I don't like how I look. Well, guess what? Someone might need to hear it. So in my eyes, it's your responsibility as a business owner to go out there and educate the world on what you do and how you can help them. And I think that's a really important thing.
I think you strike a right chord with that there's a lot of similarities in messaging. I think that kind of goes through, well, somebody else is saying it, but they're not saying it the way you're saying it. I love where you go with that, is that your voice is unique, and how you interpret and how you present the messaging, right, which we're going to get in today's conversation, matters for your audience, the way that they need to hear it. 100% agree with that, right, and get comfortable around it. And I love this whole concept. Like, the imperfections, to me, is what's perfection about showing up online, because there's the realistic nature to what we do. If you go back and watch any one of the videos, because we record all of these, there's like no editing. In 100 episodes, I can think of one time where we had to go back and take something out. And that was just a request from an interviewee that what they said didn't come across the way that they wanted. That's the only time in 100 plus episodes that we ever did any real editing at all, right? So how you come across, the realistic nature of how you come across and what you say matters. Polish sets a different expectation. It comes across as an advertisement, right?
Exactly. And there's a time and place to be polished. You know, when you're creating a brand film or you're creating a case study where you're talking about how you helped a client and how your team was able to help them overcome this big obstacle, like, awesome, put your best foot forward with that. Like, that's why people go out and they get nice headshots, right? They want to make a good first impression, but every piece of content you create does not need to be polished. In fact, it's good to not be polished because people get to see that there is a human being behind this business. Because as I said before, people do business with people. People don't have loyalty to brands. They have loyalty to people outside of, you know, your major Apple, Android type of thing. But when you're working with small businesses, they work with the people they want to work with. And so you should be authentic and be yourself.
Yeah. And that's why I love when I talk to people that they're like, hey, when do I get testimonials? I'm like, you get the testimonials at the closing table. If you go back after the fact that they're overthinking what you're asking them to do, they get paralyzed and they can't correlate their message. But if you get them at the closing table, at a minimum, you're getting smile and expressions and tears. And they're saying gosh knows what, but they're being passionate about it. And that itself is gold. If you go back and try to recreate that to get that message in, you've lost the moment. So that is definitely one of those elements of like real is raw is everything.
Exactly. That's 100% the case, right? Like, I will take, and this is something I sometimes have had some disagreements with other photographers and videographers about, because, you know, a lot of them are focused on, I want the perfect shot, the most like artistically perfect framing and cinematic and all that. And I'm like, while I want that, I care way more about emotion. If I can capture the emotion of the day, like if I'm filming a wedding, I care so much more about capturing the emotion than having a perfect shot. I'd like a perfect shot, but the emotion carries so much more weight. And it's the same way with your own marketing. You know, if you create some content and it's you and you haven't put your makeup on, and you're rushing out the door and you're like, guys, today has been a hell of a day. Let me tell you, like, awesome. Share that because people like to see what's going on behind the scenes.
You're you, right? Now,
exactly.
Then there's a time to look a little bit more presentable and polished. And I think today's conversation might fall into that category a little bit. And really what I wanted to do is, and obviously the news is the news, and real estate's in the news isn't always a good thing because the news doesn't tell our story the right way. And when we're talking about loose lawsuits and settlements and other people are telling our story, we're struggling. So we need en masse, like you were talking about, you have an audience. This is that time, like en masse. You've got to be out there telling your story. You've got to be out there talking about your value proposition. You've got to go out there and saying, this is how I do a transaction. This is how I negotiate. I negotiate to win, right? It's a competition out there. It's not just a negotiation. Everything is negotiable, but it's a competition to win. But in order to win, you have to have value. In order to set value, you got to be different. But it doesn't necessarily you do things different. You got to be different. But so now if we're talking about, without talking about lawsuits and different things, but how can agents now have that conversation confidently, comfortably, publicly online to their audience?
Yeah, I think that's the big elephant in the room, right? Is just yesterday I was speaking at a conference and I followed up a panel talking about the lawsuit. And I am not a lawyer, nor do I fully understand all of the details about the case, but here's what I understand. First and foremost, this is not the first time that this has happened within the real estate industry. The real estate industry is fine and has recovered multiple times. The next thing about it is that, at the end of the day, people will happily pay when they perceive value, right? I was talking in my presentation yesterday that when a McDouble was 99 cents, everyone was like, great, let's go get a McDouble. It's not, it's 99 cents. Now that it's $3.69, people are like, that's a lot of money to spend on a really crappy cheeseburger. Meanwhile, though, there are restaurants out there charging hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for a cheeseburger, and they have wait lists to get them. And, hey, I would never spend $6,000 on a cheeseburger. I'd love to, but there are people out there that will, and they perceive the value. Right? Just like I spend $10,000 a year on a business coach. That's a lot of money. And a lot of people will be like, wow, that's crazy. I see the value in that, so I don't even blink at it. So when you see the value, or when your clients see the value, they're never going to question what you charge. Their net price doesn't become a problem when the value is there. So the problem we're seeing now is that agents are not properly communicating their value. Right. I love, there's an episode of South Park where they make fun of real estate agents. And basically the joke is that Cartman's mom becomes an agent, and Cartman's like, if my mom can do it, anybody can do it.
I've seen that.
Right?
I don't know if we can link that at the end of the episode, because South Park is always a little bit, I don't know. But yes, you absolutely have to look that one up.
It's so funny. And I tell you what, here's the reality about it. If South Park is making fun of you, then you have an awareness problem, right? If South Park if you're to the point where you are on South Park, there is a massive problem. And I mean, look anywhere, look at the news. Nobody understands. Everyone thinks that an agent's job is to unlock the door to show you a property. And it's your job to educate them and say that we do so much more than that. This is the biggest transaction of your entire life, and we're going to guide you through it. And we have a fiduciary responsibility to protect your best interests and to make sure that this is a smart investment for you, to make sure that this is going to build wealth for you and for your family. It's not just about opening the door and letting you check out a home before you make a purchase. And that's the biggest issue. There's a ton of agents out there that don't understand what their full role is, or maybe they do and they just don't communicate it. There's a lot of agents out there that just don't care. And so they're doing a disservice to the entire industry. Luckily, the market's down, and a lot of agents, as much as I maybe hate to say it, but a lot of agents are going to be out of the industry. And so now is your time to position yourself and show that you deserve to be paid what your rates are, whatever they might be, for your work. And that's because you are providing a massive value to your clients. And people shouldn't shy away from having that conversation. It is okay to discuss compensation in any field, right? So I think that it is important to have that conversation with your clients and say, here is what my rates are, and here is the value that I provide. And that's not something to shy away from.
Right? So for agents, and for those who are listening out there, understand that intrinsic value, right, is not a checklist of services, right? Don't go be the guy like, well, I provide photography. Well, I provide staging. That's all part of it. But we're really trying to get to the crux of this is what is your promise? What do you do? What separates you from everybody else? And you really do have to kind of map that out and think that through. You can't just start spinning these things, because there's a lot of similarities amongst really good agents. But your delivery and your polish is different. So when it comes to what I say,
if I could add something real quick to that, sorry. Yeah. I think the mindset shift that I think all business owners need to go through this, I had to do this myself, is that your value is, as you said, it's not your list of services. It is not the service that you provide. It is the outcome that you are creating for your client, right? As an example, I create videos, right? But I am not charging my clients to make a video. I'm charging my client to create content that is going to grow their business, generate them more leads, make them more money, right? That's my value. My value is my ability to make my clients more money by generating them more leads. The video is just the means at which I do so. And so I think real estate agents need to think about that, and that your value is not all the checklist of services that you're able to do. Your value is the fact that you're going to make sure that your clients get into the home that is right for them. You are the expert in that area, and you're going to make sure that they are making a smart financial investment. That is way different than saying, well, I'm going to show you a bunch of different properties and I'll get the best photos and this and that, right? Like, so I think that's just a big difference, that you need to focus on the outcomes, not on the services that you're actively doing.
And that's the point, right? Because if you get into a services situation, that's where money becomes more fine.
Yep.
More, everything's negotiable, but I can line item things. Now I'm becoming an a la carte. Well, so-and-so offers videos and so-and-so offers modern.
It's a commodity.
Right?
Yeah.
No, you have to be able to go in there and tell the story of how you're going to win, right? Or how have you won? And it's a combination of you telling that story and your consumers telling that story, right? Testimonials aren't just like Dave and JJ are awesome, they got us what they wanted. It's really getting into and talking to the emotions of the transaction and what they did to help you win. How did you get to survive 15 offers and your client came out pumped? And look, sometimes it is the best offer financially, but that's not always the case. You do a lot of things in there from a relationship standpoint. Heck, JJ, in competitive situations, believe it or not, people, I'm going to share some secrets here, right? I'll still ask to go present offers in person. Lost art, right? What are you doing, right? So when you think about value, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would actually even say that this is actually a conversation that came up at this conference yesterday. real estate agents have kind of shot themselves in the foot sometimes because they feel like they need to shelter their clients from all of the turbulence that's going on in their transaction. Like, you should be sharing that, right? Because what's happening is especially the best agents, like, you're doing a great job of making this as smooth of a transaction as possible from your clients, but you're almost like sheltering them to the point where they don't even know all the things that you're doing to help them. And like some clients, cool, maybe you don't want to share everything if they're like, really worriers, but like, you should be sharing that with the world, because that right there is worth its weight in gold, to be able to help someone navigate a process and know that, like, hey, we're having some hurdles, but I will get you through it. There is no line item service that can describe that. That's just showing the client at the end of the day, we got you there. And that's also what the client's going to tell their friends and family about. So that's what's going to get you more referrals before you even get to the closing table, when you've handled this process so smoothly and helped them through it and overcome all their objections. In fact, help them overcome issues before they even popped up by educating them and showing them the way. Like, that's what's going to get you more referrals. They're not telling their friends, being like, oh, you should see the photos they took of the property, right? Like, that's not what's getting you the referral. It's the fact that you're guiding them through this process in as easy of a way as possible, and you can't put a money sign on it.
Floor plan was the best I had ever seen. That font,
exactly.
Those borders, that thickness of black popped.
Exactly, though. Exactly.
Yeah. So when we're looking at now telling your story, right, or sharing your experiences, your clients, right, how do you chunk that out online? How do I do that? Like, because I don't want to get up and give a 15-minute TED talk of my value proposition, but how do I get that message? Where do I post it? And what's the difference between social, a couple of the different platforms, or long format like YouTube, or even just hosting something on my personal website? How do I do that?
Yeah.
Like, what's most effective?
Absolutely. I mean, so I think there's most effective, and then there's what's easiest to get started, right? A most effective strategy is going to be to hit as many different places as possible and intermingle them. And that's awesome, but that's complicated, right? So the easiest way to get started is just start documenting your day. Gary Vee, I love Gary Vee. Yes. I follow him a lot. He says, document, don't create. So as you're going through your day, what can you document about what it is that you're doing in little short 15, 20, 30-second snippets that you can just share online? Walking through this house, we ran the inspection, came back. Here was a problem. Here's what we're doing to resolve it. Walking through, we had this issue with the earnest money deposit. Here's what we did to resolve it. Like, just walk through, and you don't have to share details and specifics, but showing that this is what my day-to-day life looks like. And sometimes it is okay to be like, I dropped my kids off late at school. I forgot my coffee. I'm struggling a little bit today, but I'm going to power through it. Like, it's okay to share that type of content. In fact, I encourage it, because people, again, they like to see behind the scenes. But the easiest thing to do is just start showing what's going on in your day. Another great thing to do is to start going, what are your most frequently asked questions, right? Every time someone asks you a question over the next week, write it down. And those are the topics to your videos, because if one client had that question, then more people probably have that question. And creating a quick little video explaining, well, here's what an earnest money deposit is, or here's how interest rates are affecting the current market, or here's what I learned about this neighborhood recently. All of that is value. It's providing value online and sharing it. What you want to be avoiding is what South Park is making fun of, is that the same redundant content over and over and over again of, hey, here I am at this property and it's amazing. It's amazing. Like, every property can't be amazing. Stop sharing content about, like, look at this home, it's for sale. Like, stop trying to sell and start trying to just go out there and provide value. And that is going to do so much more. Another thing I just throw out there to add is, like, if you're struggling with that, you can do exactly what Dave and I are doing right now. Hop on a call, hop on Zoom, hop on something with somebody who is also knowledgeable about a subject, and just record a conversation about it. And then there's an app called opus.pro. It basically, you upload a long form video, it spits out a bunch of little AI clips. And then you can, it uses AI to spit out some short form content. And there's some content for your Instagram. Post the whole conversation on your YouTube and say, here's my conversation with so-and-so talking about this topic, right? Like, there's ways to just start getting, you just got to figure out, how do I get that knowledge that's in your head out of your head and into the world? And then continue to do that enough times until it gets traction. That's really all there is.
So should I worry about the audience, or should I worry about just getting started?
You should worry about just getting started, about absolutely everything. And I do believe that there needs to be a strategy behind the content that you create. And so you should be thinking about what content will my audience want to watch or listen to, not what content do I want to make, right? Don't be making selfish content, but don't think much more past that, in my opinion. As long as you have a good idea of who is my target audience, who are what type of clients do I normally work with, as long as you understand that idea and understand what their wants are and what type of content they want, then just make it and go. And the same thing goes for cameras and audio and lighting. And I get asked that all the time. There's a million reasons not to make content. I don't have the best camera. I don't have a good light. I don't have a good microphone, whatever. Just stop all of that and get started. It's just like cold calling. You pick up the phone for your first couple of cold calls. It sucks. You hate it. You didn't get results. If you stopped after the first 5, like I did in my business, you're never going to get results from cold calling. But if you do it every single day, over and over and over again, it gets easier, you get better, and you will get results. It's the exact same thing about getting on camera. You just have to do it and then keep doing it until it sucks a little bit less. And then you keep doing it until you start to see results. And then eventually you're going to go, hey, I actually kind of enjoy this, or at least it's tolerable. So it's just a matter of repetition and powering through it. But you'll never get to that point if you don't just get started.
You're right. Guys, at the end of this, I'll list some things on our YouTube channel where you can kind of say, hey, there's a microphone that I'm using right now. This was $19, right? You use your phone, right? We have headphones on today, $29. Guys, and I'm using my desktop, right? And we just happen to be hosting this. Get started, right, of that conversation. And literally, I think you're spotting off hey, what I did today, right? Through your phone, capture those moments and don't overthink it. If you thought it's a good idea to do it, it's a good idea to do it. At least record it. And then you can kind of get out to it, right? Now, you touched on something. Every social media channel, right, is not received the same. Right? So if I post something on Facebook and even then by Instagram or if I do something on TikTok, you do have to kind of understand the audience a little bit, your audience and that audience. Right? So how do I decide where to go?
Well, first and foremost, it's going to depend on, do you already have a presence somewhere? Because if you already have a presence somewhere, go there, right? I am all about how do we remove as many barriers as possible and just get started. So if you already have a presence somewhere, then I would say start with that one. If you don't and you're starting from zero, I think you just got to put a little bit of thought of where does your target demographic or your target client hang out, right? Like your first time home buyer versus luxury home buyer. I use this example all the time. They're two very different people. They're probably two very different age groups. They probably have two very different income levels, right? And so your first-time home buyer is probably going to be very active on your TikTok or your Instagram because they're generally going to be much younger. They're not going to have as much income. Your luxury home buyer probably isn't on TikTok because TikTok is very, very young. And so if you're talking, you don't get me wrong, you'll probably get a lot of success posting luxury real estate videos on TikTok, but you'll get views, but views don't translate to clients because your clients aren't on that platform. Right. So they might be a better option to go. And I mean, honestly, I think Instagram's great for almost all demographics, but also LinkedIn. LinkedIn is great if you're trying to connect with professionals. And especially if you're doing luxury or especially if you're doing commercial, get on LinkedIn because that's where business professionals are hanging out. So it's really just a matter of figuring out where is your target audience? Where do they like to spend their time? But as a quick rule of thumb, Instagram is really generally liked by pretty much everyone. You get a little bit of everybody on Instagram. And so if you don't want to think too far through it, I think Instagram's a great platform right now to get started on. It's fairly easy to grow an account and get some traction. I think TikTok is great for the younger generations. Obviously, we have to keep an eye on the news and see what the government's going to do with that, but we won't get into that topic.
Different podcast, different day.
Correct.
Again, knowing your audience, right? How do you dress? How do you show up? Well, it depends on who is following you, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
Exactly. And also be yourself, right? That's something I actually had a conversation with my creative director, Brittany, about this recently, which is that we are, I always kind of felt like we were the young ones in the industry and we needed to try to impress other people and, this and that. And we've been realizing more and more, we're just going to be ourselves. I've started giving presentations with a Hawaiian shirt on because that's who I am. I love being weird. I love Hawaiian shirts. That's me. And I am totally okay with the fact that there are going to be some people who look at that and be like, I would never do business with that man. And that's cool because honestly, I probably don't want to do business with them either. Right. So, you need to find a balance between one, who are you trying to talk to and what are they expecting? But also, who are you and what do you want to be? Don't try to be someone that you're not because, if you are all dressed up in suit and tie, and that's what you're all like on Instagram. And then the client sits down with you and you're wearing a baseball cap and gym shorts at the closing table. They're going to be like, who is this guy? This isn't who I thought I was working with. So you got to be authentic throughout your entire process.
Now, if you were coaching somebody up, and I think we kind of covered the value composition pretty good about and checking things out, but where are the mistakes? Where are the pitfalls? Where can you truly go wrong? And I think that's what people are really scared about. Like, what if I say and do something wrong? Because the truth of the matter is you can't.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think number one, first and foremost, is not being consistent. I see a lot of people who try to bite off way more they can chew, and they're like, all right, I'm going to post every single day. And they do that for 2 weeks, and then they don't post for 3 months. And so I'd rather see you post one video a week for the next year than post 14 days in a row and then not post for 6 months, right? You're going to get more traction over time. And so, number one, you got to be consistent. So pick a consistency that is reasonable to you and then scale it up over time. I think it's just like going to the gym, right? If you're like, I'm going to go to the gym 5 days a week, how long are you going to stick with that? Where if you go, all right, I'm going to work out, I'm going to add a 15-minute walk-in every single day. That's way easier than I'm going to spend an hour at the gym lifting weights 5 days a week. So think about what's reasonable for you. Also, batch create your content. Sit down for a couple hours and film content that works for the next month and then post it. You don't have to create the content the day you post it. You can create stuff in advance and schedule it and share it out over time. So I think, those are two things. Another thing also is people get so afraid of like, well, what if I say the wrong thing? Or, what if what I say is incorrect? Well, number one, you can always go back and delete a post. So, it's not the end of the world.
Once it's out there.
I mean, yes and no, but you can also then post another video with an update. Be like, hey guys, I made a mistake. I just wanted to address this. This is the correct thing, right? Like you see all these things about people getting canceled and everything these days. And a lot of it's because, don't be wrong, a lot of it's deserved, a lot of it's not. But if they had just kind of got in front of it and owned up to any mistake they made, the reception would be much easier than them trying to like hide things. And so I think, think about that on a much smaller scale here. Let's say you misspoke or you said something wrong, or, you had coffee spilled on your shirt. Like, lean into it. It's like, it's okay. We're all human beings. Own it and move on. And people are going to respect that so much more. And so I don't think, I really feel like the biggest mistakes is just not getting started and not keeping up with it, and everything else there's a remedy for.
I think the one thing that I would say is that understand that this is a business conversation. Be mindful of what you're saying and how it's going to be interpreted, right? So if it's something that's politically charged, you might want to avoid that, right? That's just not good for anybody, regardless of your views. Everybody's entitled to them, and just because you have this platform to kind of speak you could be very damaging to your business. I've seen a lot of people go down that path and are like, that's just what I believe. I'm like, that's fine, but at what cost?
Correct. And I think that, there's a balance to be had, right? I do believe you should stand up for what you believe in, but I also think that there are some topics that are going to be very polarizing, and, you don't have to you don't have to have a voice on everything. I think social media has kind of made it where like everyone feels like the world needs to hear every opinion I have, and no, the world doesn't. And don't be wrong, there are some causes, and maybe there is a cause that is politically charged that's important to you, and that's fine. Just understand the potential consequences of what you're sharing, and understand that not everyone's going to agree with that. And so I think that there's also a very big difference between posting about maybe a politically charged topic versus just being, maybe your less than business professional self, right? Like, I'm definitely one, you'll see me now, I'm wearing a snapback and a t-shirt. I probably curse a little more than I should. And but that's an active choice that I'm making and how I want to represent myself. But I'm also not out here talking about political topics nearly as much. I mean, there's a couple things that my company's commented on, but we always are delicate because I never want to put someone else down. Sometimes there are some topics that I think we should share that we are in support of, but I think especially just avoiding the negativity, right? Like you get back what you put into the world. And so you can support causes without being negative towards others. And I think that's a really important thing to keep in mind.
It's
is
way
how
too
are you
easy
representing
to go down a negative pitfall, intentionally or not. You just all of a sudden find yourself in that space. You just want to avoid that. And you're right. And how things are received, right? You could say, and it's not always a popular decision, but as long as you own it and you understand how you're good with it. Because there's also people that want to break you down. Like, I literally have had people in the business owners wear like a bleep cancer t-shirt, where we've gotten calls because somebody had it out for this person, right? And complaining they want their license revoked. I'm like, that's the most absurd thing ever.
Yeah.
However, right, people are people. So I'm not saying
100%.
avoid
And I mean, I think
everything,
that's
but be you, be real.
exactly. And that's, that's something where, hey, you just have to understand that every decision you make, there might be negative
Yeah.
repercussions. And a lot of times you can just ignore them, like, honestly, I think that the number one way to prove that you're making something of yourself or something of your business is to start getting haters, right? Because people hate on success. So I think that some of that's a good thing. Just also recognize that the choices you make may result in a little bit more of that, a little bit faster than maybe you wanted it. Right.
Absolutely.
So, it's all just making a conscious decision and just acknowledging that this might not agree with everybody. And is that something that you are passionate about enough to take the risk of or not?
So as we wrap up, everybody, today, we want to take a couple of things, right? First and foremost, take action. It's never too late to get started. There's a lot of information that's disinformation, which is giving you, begging for you to take advantage of the platform you have and tell the right message about you, your business, your industry. Two, utilize that platform to separate and determine what your value is. Think back, document the things that we were talking about. Get your consumers to be your champions and tell those stories and springboard yourself forward and figure that out as you go along. Anything else to kind of share with everybody else today, JJ?
I think, I keep always going back to this lawsuit because it's what I keep seeing over and over and over again. And at the end of the day, like, in my opinion, you have two ways of handling this. You're right. You can sit back and complain about it, like the majority of real estate agents are, saying this isn't fair, this isn't true, everyone's misrepresenting us, etc. Or you can get out there and be the positive force to say, hey guys, here's what's going on here, and here is my stance, and here is how we're providing value and why I think we deserve what we deserve, right? Like, it is okay to share that, but there is the media and everyone else is going to keep posting all this negative information. They're going to keep this negative snowball going, and you have an opportunity to get out there and put a positive spin on it and say, here is how I'm out here helping my clients. I don't care what happens. There could be more lawsuits. It doesn't matter. I'm going to be out here making my clients the best decisions for my clients that I can, being the fiduciary that I can be, and doing the best that I possibly can to serve. And so I just like to leave you at that. You have that choice to be that positive impact in the world. If you want to be it, don't fall into the trap of just complaining and being negative like everyone else.
If you're silent, your story gets told without you.
Yep. Exactly.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for joining this week on Entrepreneurial Impact. Go back, watch a couple of the previous episodes and see what JJ has shared with us previously, and we'll catch you next Wednesday.